This Nebraska post-game football reaction is brought to you by Pinnacle Bank, the way that banking should be. Minnesota was down at least 30 players, maybe 33 players. They hadn't played in 22 days, and they dominated Nebraska from the opening snap of the game. Minnesota 24, Nebraska 17, and set aside the score. Let's be honest about that. Minnesota played this game just the way that Minnesota wanted to. They held on the ball. They had the clock advantage. They took an early 10-0 lead because of Nebraska's mistakes. They bled the clock. They played field position, and they beat Nebraska like Jim Tressel would have done it, except this time the head coach is P.J. Fleck, and Nebraska played right into Minnesota's hands, right into them. A fumble on the first play of the game, a pass, no less, an inexplicable pass, I think, and a fumble on the first play of the game. Nebraska recovers it, but they have to punt. Then an interception from Luke McCaffrey, who's inserted into the game when Adrian Martinez has to have his left hand looked at. Then more mistakes. After Nebraska takes a 14-10 lead, they give up a 61-yard run, right toward the end of half. Then they drop an interception, and Cam Taylor-Britt is called for a targeting penalty. Minnesota turns that into a touchdown instead of a field goal. They go into the break up 17-14 instead of behind 14-13 in the second half. It's close. Again, it's tight, 17-14. End of the third quarter. Nebraska has an opportunity to just run out the clock and then play with the north wind in the fourth quarter, and what do? They call 3 straight pass plays. 2 of them are incomplete. The third one is a sack. It's an Adrian Martinez fumble. Minnesota recovers. Minnesota turns that into a touchdown. That's painful. Nebraska's inability to get control of the game early and then to keep control for the brief moment that they were leading is the kind of thing that screams game management, that screams program consistency. These things continue to evade Nebraska. And this Minnesota team was extremely undermanned. They were a 9 to 10 point underdog today. And I think it was really notable that Minnesota came into this game. I think they had about 65 guys here. That's 9 less than the travel roster, so they probably brought just about everybody they could. And let's be honest, they won the line of scrimmage for much of the game. Their receivers looked better than Nebraska's receivers. Their running backs, they played 4 of them, looked better than Nebraska's running backs, and their quarterback played better than Nebraska's quarterback did, especially throwing the ball. There's going to be huge, huge questions about why Nebraska decided to throw the ball so often, especially against the wind. And there's going to be huge questions about what Nebraska does about its passing game because it just wasn't very effective or efficient. Questions about why Dedrick Mills wasn't used very much today and why they didn't just lean on a run game when Minnesota was depleted and was giving up 6.82 yards a carry per game per carry. It's just surprising that Nebraska insisted on trying to throw the football today, and they didn't do it very effectively. You got to forget the completion percentage. That doesn't matter nearly as much as the explosiveness, and Nebraska was simply not very explosive as a passing offense. Huskers dropped to 2-5. They'll probably find out tonight who they play. It could be Rutgers. It could be Michigan. It's really hard to say, but the chances of a bowl game are very slim now. Nebraska went into today. If they'd won it, they would have been in great shape, but they lost the game. And I think that was really surprising, and I think it's really frustrating. There were a couple of questionable moments. The Cam Taylor-Britt targeting penalty, questionable. A holding call on Ethan Piper, very questionable. That brought back a Husker touchdown. Nebraska got a field goal out of it, but the holding penalty isn't as important because at the end of the game when Nebraska had to get a stop on Minnesota, they didn't do it. Minnesota was able to run right down the field, and Mohamed Ibrahim, instead of running into the end zone for a touchdown, decided to slide. So really the game was 31-17, but Ibrahim decided not to score a touchdown so that Minnesota could end the game on the field and kneel it out. So it's 24-17, but at the end of the day, Nebraska just got beat. And they got beat on both sides of the ball, and the fact that Minnesota was missing as many players as it was and hadn't played as long as it had, man, what do you do if you're Nebraska from here? It's a tough deal. Huskers looked like they sleptwalked through the first quarter, and they really struggled on offense in the second half. lots of questions. But you know what? There are a lot of questions anyway with this season. It's a season now that Nebraska may hope gets over sooner than later. And if, it's not the best thing to have going into signing day. If they'd won this one, they would have been able to preach momentum. They didn't win it. They were outplayed. They were definitely outcoached. Minnesota 24, Nebraska 17. Thanks, Husker fans. You can follow our coverage on omaha.com, Big Red Today, and the Omaha World-Herald.